I'm sure we all remember that time when Anubis just pressed one button and your entire health bar disappeared in a matter of seconds.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
But Anubis ult isn't actually the highest damage ability in Smite, so continue watching if you want to find out what does more damage than Anubis ult. This video is a remake of one I made a while ago. I got a few things wrong in that video and missed out a key ability that should have been on the list but it wasn't. And the quality of the video in general just wasn't that great, to be honest, so I thought I'd remake it to correct some mistakes and just up the quality of the video to a more reasonable standard, so let's get into it. I'm going to be excluding a few abilities from the list to keep it fair. Any type of execute or percent health damage ability such as Hovering Death or Divine Judgment, since these types of abilities kind of vary a lot in what damage they do with who you're targeting and things like that, and they could do a vastly wide amount of damage, like they could do almost nothing or they could do an insane amount, so I'm just going to exclude those for now. Also, abilities like Calder and Vulcan's Inferno Cannon, since they can do infinite damage in a single cast of the ability, which is a bit unfair. I also want to quickly mention Scylla. I'm not going to be including her in the list, since her ultimate is a bit too reliant on getting kills, and the list is mainly based on like how much damage you can do with a single cast of the ability. But I thought I'd mention her real quick, as she kind of has the potential to do infinite damage if you get enough resets and enough people to kill, but she's not going to be considered for the list. Also, keep in mind that this information will almost never apply to a real game. These numbers aren't realistic in the slightest. I just thought it'd be fun to take a look at some of the big numbers. Since abilities have base and scaling values, we're going to need some items to include those scaling values. For magicals, the build is going to be Shoes of the Magi, a fully stacked Book of Thoth, Spear of Desolation, Obsidian Shard, Rod of Tahuti, and Soul Reaver. This build gives a total of 735 magical power. For the physical side of things, the build will be Warrior Tabby, fully stacked Transcendence, Jotun's Wrath, Shifter's Shield, Brawler's Beatstick, and Titan's Bane. This build gives a total of 316 physical power. So with all that said, let's get straight into number 5. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we've got Zeus's Lightning Storm. This ability deals 180 base damage plus 50% scaling per tick. It ticks 5 times total, giving it 900 base damage and 250% scaling over the full duration. So 900 plus 250% of 735 gives the ability a total damage value of 2,738. And that's only number 5. Taking the number 4 spot, we've got the only physical ability to make it onto the list, Bastet's Catcall. I was actually really surprised to find this ability making it up here, to be honest. But when you consider that the ability can hit a maximum of 30 times total, it gets a bit more believable. Each hit of a cat does 65 base damage and 20% scaling, and each cat can hit a maximum of once per second for 10-second duration, so 10 times each. So with 3 cats, that's 30 total ticks of damage, giving the ability 1950 base damage with 600% scaling, totaling out at 3,846 damage. Back to magical abilities for number 3. It's Anubis' Death Gaze. I'm sure a lot of you expected this at number 1 or 2 coming into the video, but it turns out it can be beaten for raw damage output. The ability does 43 base damage plus 15% magical scaling per tick and ticks 30 times in the full duration, giving it 1920 base damage with 450% magical scaling, which totals out at a whopping 4,598 damage. Somehow that was only number 3, so let's get into the abilities that do even more than an Anubis ult. At number 2 we've got Cabrakan's Tremors. Now, before you go tell me to kill myself down in the comments, just hear me out on this one. I know it's not likely to hit all 20 ticks in any game, but this video isn't about likelihood or real games, it's just about the raw damage the ability can do, and Tremors is great for that. So Tremors hits for 62 base damage plus 35% scaling per tick. So with a total of 20 ticks, that means it does 1240 base damage and 700% magical scaling. The scaling here is really what tips this ability over the edge. It totals out at 6,385 damage. But somehow, there's an ability that does even more damage than Anubis ult. Even more damage than Tremors. It must be some future, unreleased mage where power creep has taken Smite completely and mages are released with broken, ridiculous damage. Never mind, it's a Guardian. Taking the number 1 spot for the highest damage ability in Smite, it's Ganesha's Dharmic Pillars. This ability does 255 base damage with 40% magical scaling per tick. It ticks once every half second for the 6-second duration, so a total of 12 ticks, giving it a total of 3,060 plus 480% scaling in damage, which totals out at 6,588 damage. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you want to suggest any video ideas or let me know what ability you thought was going to be number 1. But that's about it. Peace out, nerds.